Hey everyone, it's Synth Designer back again with another video. Today we're continuing our series on Synthwave Essentials, and I'm going to show you what I consider to be 4 of the most essential sounds in Synthwave. The great part is I'm using all my free preset packs from synthdesigner.com. This is using Serum. All of these are from Synthwave Essentials volumes 1 through 4. You could get them all right now at synthdesigner.com, absolutely free. There's over 100 unique sounds here available through the 4 preset packs. If you don't have Serum, I also released a Synthwave Essentials for Vital a little while back. Again, all of these are free, no signups required. I appreciate any donations, or if you want to sign up to my Patreon page, I give out 12 to 15 presets from Serum every month for only a couple bucks. That gets you kind of early access to these preset packs, just in case you want to support the channel. I really appreciate all the downloads and all the support from everybody over the last while, of course. So I'm going to show you what I consider these 4 essential sounds. They are kind of a brassy lead, a classic bass pluck, some bright keys, and some bright synths, bright kind of like pad synths. The classic bass sound, I'm going to show you a couple different patches, and the bright keys as well. I'm going to show you 2 different patches for those, and then we're going to talk about the other ones as well. So we're going to get right into it. Let's start with what is kind of the quintessential bass sound here. And of course, you've heard it in basically every Synthwave song. There's this version that I have called Bass of Basses from Synthwave Essentials Volume 1. And then from Synthwave Essentials Volume 4, we have what I call Easy B. So super simple sounds, and let's just listen to a pattern that I created real quick. And then we could go back to the other patch as well. So let's talk about how I created these. The first one is I've shown you a bunch of times in different videos. This one is just 2 basic saw waves, and then I have a triangle on the sub. The key part, of course, is the envelope, getting it to be kind of a pluck shape. And you can change this up as well. You can make it really, really plucky if you wanted to. So that sounds very classic kind of synthwave. I kept it a little bit more open, I guess you could call it, just because I wanted a little bit of a different sound. And then let's go back to the other one from Synthwave Essentials Volume 4 called Easy B. This one is even simpler here. We have just the saw and the square and the sub. And very plucky on this one. As you can see, since it's a bass, can't have too many effects. It will kind of muddy up the mix. Have a little bit of chorus here and some unison on this just to make it a little bit wider. Of course, you can just go right up the center if you wanted to. Felt like giving it a little bit more dimension, so it's up to you. But super simple sound. That is essential, like synthwave all the way. Just a very basic kind of saw on a square. The square adds kind of that depth to it, and the saw adds a little bit of more upper harmonics and a little bit of grit. And of course, feel free to play with the cutoffs to kind of change up the tone of it. The next sound is going to be from my newest preset pack, Synthwave Essentials Volume 4. And this is what I call classic brass. It's a very brassy sound. And let's just listen to it. You hear a lot of those kind of like brassy sounds in all sorts of synthwave songs, used in different contexts. Sometimes it could be used as an ARP, sometimes it's background, sometimes it's focal or the focal point of the song. And it's really just a very essential sound to all synthwave music. Now this is a lead. You could potentially play chords, but it's really meant as a kind of a lead. And it's a big one, so it fills out a lot of space. It is a kind of bigger sound, so you'll have to be kind of mindful of that in the mix. But let's just take a look at how to create it. So we've started off with two kind of saw waves here, very basic, both with 7 voice of unison, both an octave up, and it just kind of gives us a kind of very basic foundation. And the key parts is, so when you're thinking of a brass instrument, it doesn't have that transient. It has someone blowing into it, right? When you think of any brass instrument. So it's going to have a slower attack. And that's what we have here on both envelopes. So envelope 1, you can see how slow it is. It's kind of got that kind of sound that you are mimicking as a brass instrument, and that comes from the attack being slower. The other element here is the second envelope, opening up the filter here. So we have both of those elements working together here. The LFO here is pretty simple. I've added a little bit of detunement, kind of wobble to the sound, but not much here. Then we do have some important elements in the effects here. Chorus, adding more width to it. Reverb, of course, you can hear. It sounds great without the reverb too. It just kind of gives it a little bit of added dimension. I cut out some of the lows here, and same with this filter. I really want to make sure to cut out some of these lows, as well as not make it too high. Otherwise, it would get a little bit too bright, and that's not what I wanted with this particular sound. The next essential sound we have are some bright, plucky key sounds. So keys come into play into synthwave all over the place. They are really kind of used in different contexts, much like the brass sound we talked about before. They could be used as ARPs, they could be used as leads, they could just be kind of cool melodies. They're used all over the place, and I'm going to show you 2 different key sounds. First, this one called Bright Pluck from Synthwave Essentials Volume 2, and then the next one will be from Synthwave Essentials Volume 4. Let's just listen in on this one. So that great, very, very bright sound. This one I had to kind of play around with different wave shapes to kind of give us a little bit more of a unique character. Of course, you don't need to use these particular wave shapes to create great key sounds, but this one really is unique because of it. These are both from the analog shape still. We have the MB triangle and the PWM LPF, both of them with several voice of unison to kind of give us a bigger sound. Then we have this one up 2 octaves while this one's up 1. That really gives us that really bright character. And this gives us kind of that middle, kind of mid to lows to kind of fill out more of the sound. So they really complement each other in that regard. I have the cutoff quite open here, and as you can see here, with a lot of keys, you're kind of establishing a kind of a plucky sound. There's different varieties of keys, so of course you can not necessarily have it just as a straight pluck, but you can as well. You can have it, your sustain up a little bit more. Up the release. I didn't want that for this particular sound. I have some distortion here, some soft clip, just added some more of that harmonic content, some delay here and reverb. It really requires at least the reverb in my mind, just to kind of give that character. Delay is often up to taste, and then I cut out the lows and boosted the highs again just to give us more of that higher character. The next sound here I'm going to show you is from the newest preset pack. This is I would say, even more of a traditional kind of key sound you'd hear in Synthwave. I was really trying to capture some of that analog character, some of that classic 80s character. We have the PWM Juno here, along with a basic saw wave. The PWM Juno here, really doing a lot of work here, and I do have this LFO here, as you can see on the wavetable position, giving us kind of that vibrato kind of element, along with an LFO on the fine. So we're getting a little bit of that detunement, a little bit of that unstable character, and that is really adding to the analog feel of it. This saw wave here is actually up an octave plus 7 semitones. That's really giving us that bright effect. So again, we have the PWM Juno giving us that mid-low, and then the saw is really just meant to be kind of brightening up things a little bit. And it can get very bright. The noise oscillator is also on, as you can see, just giving us, again, a little bit more of that character, just giving us that analog feel as well. The envelopes here are a little bit more traditional for keys sounds. As we saw in the last one, is much more plucky. This one, more sustained. So you can really use this as kind of your main instrument here. Effects, as you can hear, it's getting some width from the hyper and the dimension. Just a little bit. EQ'd out some of the lows again, and then basic delay and reverb. You really don't need the reverb again. A nice rich sound on its own. The last essential sound here is the kind of bright pad sound. Now, pads can differ in a lot of ways. They could be really slow kind of attack. They could be very subtle. They could be really big like this one. So in this case, we have this very, very bright, big pad. As you can hear, it's really big. It really fills out a lot of space. So let's take a look at how to create it. As you can see here, we have just basic saw waves. They each have 6 and 7 voices of unison, just to fill out a lot of space. The cutoff here is modulated by an envelope, opening it up and then slowly closing it. So we get that kind of initial transience a little bit. You can also change this up. You can really make it subtle and kind of bring it in. And that really kind of adds a nice kind of different texture to it. We do have some noise again here. Adding more character as well. LFO here is on the bend function, so we're getting a little bit of that kind of wobble from this saw wave here. And then I have them on different fine tuning. Again, trying to get a little bit more of that analog character to it. Effects here, we have a little bit of distortion, and you can hear as well very clearly the phaser. Let's just hone in on the phaser for now. As you can hear, it's really kind of giving us a little bit more of a unique character. You don't necessarily need it. Gives us a nice, clear, and kind of classic sound. The phaser I found just gives a little bit more unique character. And then I have a lot of delay and reverb. You don't need it here. Again, it's just for personal taste and preference. Reverb I would recommend for this one. It's pretty subtle, but it does add some dimension to it. And then cutting out some of those lows as well with an EQ. Depending on your mix, you might have to cut out more. But these bright pads, they're really pretty essential for a lot of different synthwave songs. Really adds a nice kind of moodiness to it depending on how you use them. But that's it. Those are the 4 essential synthwave sounds, all created using Serum, all available through my website at synthdesigner.com. Download Synthwave Essentials Volumes 1 through 4 on Serum and Synthwave Essentials for Vital as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.